Paris, 1944. A city under occupation. German soldiers on every corner. The Eiffel Tower standing over a conquered capital, and in the sky above, an American pilot is about to do something that sounds absolutely impossible. His name is William Overstreet. He's flying a P-47 Thunderbolt, 7 tons of American steel and firepower, and he's chasing a German fighter that's trying to escape through the streets of Paris at 300 miles per hour, barely above the rooftops. The German pilot thinks he's found the perfect escape. He banks hard toward the Eiffel Tower. Surely the American won't follow. Surely no one is crazy enough to fly through the arches of the most famous landmark in France. He's wrong, because what Bill Overstreet does next becomes the most daring maneuver of World War II, a moment witnessed by hundreds of Parisians, a flight so impossible that people will debate whether it really happened, until France itself confirms the story and awards him their highest honor 65 years later. This is the true story of the American pilot who flew through the Eiffel Tower and lived to tell about it. But before we get to that impossible moment, you need to understand how a farm boy from Virginia ended up in the skies over Paris, with nothing but courage and 7 tons of American engineering. Let me take you back to the beginning, because Bill Overstreet's story doesn't start in Paris. It starts in a small town in Virginia, where a young man with no money and no connections decides he wants to fly. William Bruce Overstreet Jr., born 1921, Clifton Forge, Virginia, small-town America. His father ran a dairy. Bill worked on the farm, milking cows before school, the kind of upbringing that builds character, work ethic, the ability to stay calm under pressure. When Pearl Harbor happened, Bill was 19 years old. He didn't wait to be drafted. He enlisted. Army Air Corps. He wanted to be a fighter pilot. But here's what most people don't know. In 1942, not everyone got to be a pilot. The selection process was brutal. Most applicants washed out, and what Bill faced in training would prepare him for the impossible moment over Paris. You needed education. You needed connections. You needed to pass brutal selection tests, physical tests, mental tests, coordination tests designed to break you. Bill Overstreet, farm boy from Virginia, made it through. Flight training at bases across the South, primary training in Stearman biplanes, advanced training in AT-6 Texans, and finally, fighter training in the aircraft that would become his partner, the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. Now here's what you need to understand about the P-47, because without this aircraft, what happens over Paris would be impossible. This isn't a delicate fighter. This is a 7-ton beast, and it's about to become Bill's best friend. The P-47 Thunderbolt isn't graceful like a Spitfire. It isn't sleek like a Mustang. It's massive, 7 tons, 8 .50 caliber machine guns, a massive radial engine. Pilots called it the Jug, short for Juggernaut, because that's what it was. But here's what the P-47 had going for it. It could take punishment. Incredible punishment. Pilots flew home with half a wing missing, with engines shot to pieces, with control surfaces destroyed. The P-47 was built like a tank, and it had the power to back it up. Bill Overstreet fell in love with it. The raw power, the reliability, the feeling that this aircraft would bring you home, no matter what happened, and he's going to need that trust, because by early 1944, he's about to be sent into the most dangerous skies in the world, where German aces are waiting, and where every mission could be your last. By early 1944, Bill is in England, assigned to the 357th Fighter Group, 363rd Fighter Squadron, based at Leiston, on the east coast of England. Close enough to hear the bombers taking off every morning. Close enough to know that his job is to protect them. The mission is simple on paper. American B-17 and B-24 bombers fly deep into Germany. They bomb factories, rail yards, oil refineries, everything the German war machine needs, and German fighters try to shoot them down. Fighter pilots like Bill are the escorts. They fly alongside the bombers. They engage any German fighters that show up. They protect those bomber crews. Because every bomber that makes it home is another strike against Nazi Germany. But here's the brutal reality. German fighters are some of the best in the world, and what Bill doesn't know yet is that one of these dogfights will take him to Paris and force him to make the most insane decision of his life. The German pilots aren't amateurs. Messerschmitt 109s, Focke-Wulf 190s, flown by experienced Luftwaffe pilots who've been fighting since 1939. Men with dozens of kills, men who know every trick. And the missions are dangerous, incredibly dangerous, every time you take off. There's a chance you don't come back. Flak over the target, German fighters attacking from the sun, mechanical failure over enemy territory. 1,000 ways to die. But Bill Overstreet doesn't think about that. He thinks about his job. Protect the bombers, engage the enemy, come home safe. And by the spring of 1944, he's getting good at it. His first kill comes in February. A Messerschmitt 109 over Germany. Clean shot, confirmed by his wingman. One small victory in a massive air war, but it builds confidence. It proves he can do this. By March 1944, Bill has flown dozens of missions. He's confident, he's capable, and he's about to face a German pilot who will lead him on the most famous chase in aviation history. But first, that German needs to make a crucial mistake. The missions are changing. Instead of just escorting bombers deep into Germany, they start flying over France, attacking German positions, strafing airfields, destroying supply lines, softening up the defenses before the invasion. And one of those missions, on a spring day in 1944, will make Bill Overstreet famous. The date is uncertain. Records from that period are incomplete. Some say March, some say April. But what's certain is this. Bill Overstreet is flying a mission over German-occupied France. And things are about to get interesting. The mission starts normally. Takeoff from Leiston. Formation flying across the English Channel, the white cliffs of Dover disappearing behind them, the coast of France appearing ahead. Enemy territory. They're flying in formation, multiple P-47s, standard combat spread, eyes scanning the sky constantly, because German fighters can appear from anywhere, out of the sun, from above, from cloud cover, and then someone calls out. Enemy aircraft, Messerschmitt, 109s. The sky is about to explode into chaos, and in the middle of that chaos, Bill is going to lock onto one German fighter who's about to make a desperate run for Paris, not knowing that the American chasing him won't give up. No matter what. The German fighters are trying to intercept them. Bill's squadron breaks formation, engages. The sky erupts into chaos. This is what dogfighting actually looks like. It's not graceful. It's not choreographed. It's violent, chaotic. Aircraft turning at maximum G-force. Pilots blacking out from the strain. Tracer rounds cutting through the sky. Radio chatter. Warnings. Contact calls. Bill locks onto a Messerschmitt. The German pilot sees him, brakes hard left. Bill follows, stick hard over, rudder pedals working, the P-47 groaning under the G-forces, but staying with the target. The German pilot is good. He knows what he's doing. He's diving, trying to use speed to escape. Bill follows, throttle forward. The P-47's massive engine responding. Two fighters screaming toward the earth at 400 miles per hour. They're over Paris now, and the German pilot thinks he's found the perfect escape route. He's heading for the city, where American pilots are under strict orders not to engage. But what he doesn't know is that Bill Overstreet is about to break every rule in the book. Bill can see the city below, the Seine River, the rooftops, and ahead, rising above everything, the Eiffel Tower. The German pilot has a plan. He's heading for Paris, for the city itself, because he knows something. American pilots are under strict orders. Do not engage over Paris. Do not risk civilian casualties. The city is full of French civilians living under occupation. You can't just spray machine gun fire over their heads. So the German pilot thinks he's found sanctuary. Fly into Paris. The American will break off. Standard procedure, he's about to discover. Bill Overstreet doesn't always follow standard procedure. Bill follows him into the city. Low level. Barely 100 feet above the rooftops. This is insane. This is dangerous. Buildings flashing past. No room for error. One wrong move, and you're dead. The German pilot is weaving through the streets, using buildings for cover. Brilliant defensive flying. Bill's trying to get a shot. But the angle isn't right. Buildings in the way, civilians below. He can't fire. Not yet. And then the German pilot makes his move. He's heading straight for the Eiffel Tower, and Bill realizes what he's planning. The German is going to fly through the arches, through the narrowest gap in Paris. And if Bill follows, everyone says it's suicide, but Bill's about to prove them wrong. The German banks hard right, heading directly toward the Eiffel Tower, the most famous landmark in France, rising 1,000 feet into the air, iron lattice structure, massive, unmissable. Bill sees what he's doing. The German is going to fly through the tower, through the arches at the base, where the massive iron legs meet the ground. It's barely wide enough for a fighter, but it's possible. Just barely possible. And if Bill follows, if Bill flies through after him, it's guaranteed death, right? No one flies through the Eiffel Tower. It's suicide. Here's what Bill Overstreet thinks in that moment. And this decision, made in a split second, will define his entire life. He doesn't think about the danger. He doesn't think about the impossibility. He thinks about his friend, killed 2 weeks ago. And he's not letting this German escape. The German enters the arch, disappears into the iron structure for a split second. Bill can't see him. Bill doesn't hesitate. He follows. The P-47 Thunderbolt, 7 tons of American fighter, enters the arch of the Eiffel Tower at over 200 miles per hour, wings level, steady hands on the stick, iron lattice flashing past on both sides. So close, he can see the rivets. So close, he could reach out and touch it. For 3 seconds, Bill Overstreet is flying through the Eiffel Tower, the most impossible maneuver of the war, hundreds of Parisians watching from below. And when he comes out the other side, he's got a clear shot at the German fighter. And then he's through, out the other side, the German Messerschmitt ahead of him, still trying to escape. Bill's got clear air now, clear shot. He squeezes the trigger. 850 caliber machine guns open fire. 3,400 rounds per minute. Pure American firepower. The German aircraft lights up, hits, smoke, fire. The Messerschmitt rolls hard left, out of control. Bill watches it go down, crash into the outskirts of Paris. Confirmed kill. But Bill doesn't have time to celebrate, because he's still over Paris, still deep in enemy territory, still low on fuel, and when he gets back to base, he has no idea if he's going to be court-martialed or decorated. Because, technically, he just violated direct orders. He turns west, full throttle, gets out of the city, heads for the Channel, for England, for home. When Bill lands back at Leiston, he's not sure what's going to happen, because, technically, he violated orders. He engaged over Paris. He risked civilian casualties. He could be in serious trouble. He climbs out of the cockpit. Ground crew is looking at his aircraft. No damage. Not a scratch. The P-47 brought him home clean. Bill goes to debriefing, tells his story, the chase, the Eiffel Tower, the kill. He's matter-of-fact about it. Just another mission. Just another German fighter. His commander looks at him. Did you really fly through the Eiffel Tower? Yes, sir. Are you insane? Maybe, sir. Bill expects discipline, maybe a reprimand. But what happens next surprises everyone, because if this story is true, If an American pilot really flew through the Eiffel Tower and shot down a German fighter. This is the kind of story that wins wars. But there's one big problem. No one can prove it. The intelligence officers start asking questions. Can you confirm this? Can you verify? Did anyone else see? Because if this really happened, if an American pilot really flew through the Eiffel Tower and shot down a German fighter, this is propaganda gold. This is morale gold. This is the kind of story that wins hearts and minds. But there's a problem. No gun camera footage. The P-47s in 1944 don't all have cameras mounted, so there's no film proof. And Bill's wingman was engaged with another German fighter. He didn't see it. So officially, the story is unconfirmed. Bill gets credit for the kill. The Messerschmitt is verified. It went down. But the Eiffel Tower maneuver? That's just a story, a tale that sounds too good to be true. And for decades, that's how it stays. Just a story, a legend, something that might have happened or might be exaggerated, until the French people, who were actually there, who saw it with their own eyes, finally speak up. Years pass, the war ends. Bill Overstreet goes home to Virginia. He doesn't talk much about the war, like most veterans of his generation. He keeps it quiet. He builds a life, family, business, normal American life. The story of the Eiffel Tower fades, becomes legend. Some people believe it, some people don't. Some historians think it's exaggerated. A tall tale from the war. But here's the thing. Bill knows it happened. He was there. He did it. And eventually, the world will believe him too. Decades pass. Bill lives quietly in Virginia. He attends some veteran reunions, stays in touch with a few guys from his squadron, but mostly he's just a regular guy, living a regular life. But in France, something extraordinary is happening, because the French people remember. They were there, on the streets of Paris in 1944. They saw an American fighter chase a German plane through their city. And they're about to give Bill the recognition he deserves. French resistance members, civilians who lived through the occupation. They remember seeing an American fighter chase a German plane through their city. They remember the moment it flew through the Eiffel Tower. They've told their children, their grandchildren, and slowly, very slowly, those stories make their way to official channels. Historians start collecting testimonies, people who were there, who witnessed it, independent verification from multiple sources. The French government starts investigating. Could this really have happened? Is there evidence? Can we verify this extraordinary claim? And what they find surprises them. Multiple independent witnesses, all telling the same story. An American P-47 chasing a German fighter through the Eiffel Tower in 1944. They track down Bill Overstreet, still alive, living in Virginia. And what France is about to do will finally validate everything. After 65 years of doubt, after decades of people saying it was impossible, France is about to prove it was real. They ask him, did this really happen? Bill, now an old man, tells them, yes, it happened. And here's how. The French are convinced this isn't legend, this isn't exaggeration, this is history. An American pilot saved French lives, risked everything, did the impossible, over their capital city. In 2009, France makes it official. They invite Bill Overstreet to Paris for a ceremony at the Eiffel Tower, the same tower he flew through 65 years earlier. They award him the Légion d'honneur, France's highest honor, for bravery, for service, for that one impossible moment in 1944. Bill Overstreet, farm boy from Virginia, stands at the base of the Eiffel Tower as an old man and receives a nation's gratitude. The ceremony is emotional, and Bill's response is exactly what you'd expect from a man of his generation. The ceremony is emotional. French officials speak about courage, about the liberation, about Americans who risked everything for France. Bill is quiet, humble, He doesn't think he did anything special. He was just doing his job. But the French disagree. They know what he did. They know what it meant. And they'll never forget. Bill Overstreet lived until 2013. He was 92 years old. He spent his final years telling his story, to schools, to veterans groups, to anyone who wanted to hear about that day over Paris. He always emphasized the same thing. The P-47 made it possible, that incredible aircraft, built strong enough to handle anything, responsive enough to thread through the tower, powerful enough to catch the German fighter. And he always remembered his friends, the pilots who didn't make it home, the crews who went down over Germany, the men who paid the ultimate price. Bill flew over 60 missions in World War II. He was credited with multiple kills. He served with distinction. But he'll always be remembered for one mission, one moment, one impossible maneuver. And here's why his story matters so much. It's not just about flying skill. It's about decision-making under pressure, about commitment, about refusing to let the enemy escape. Think about what Bill did. In that split second, he had to assess the risk, calculate the odds, make a choice, follow through the tower, or let the German escape. Most pilots would have broken off. Standard procedure. Common sense. Don't risk your life and your aircraft on an impossible stunt. But Bill Overstreet wasn't most pilots. He saw an opportunity. He saw justice. His friend had been killed, and he wasn't going to let this German pilot get away with it. The fact that he succeeded? That's skill. That's the thousands of hours of training. The confidence in his aircraft. The steady hands. The perfect timing. But the decision to try? That's character. That's courage. That's what separates legends from ordinary men. And that's what we need to remember about the greatest generation. The Eiffel Tower still stands in Paris. Tourists visit it every day. Millions of them. They take photos. They ride to the top. They admire the view. Very few of them know that, in 1944, an American pilot flew a 7-ton fighter through its arches, chasing a German fighter at 200 miles per hour. There's no plaque marking it, no memorial, just the tower itself, standing as it always has, a witness to history, the P-47 Thunderbolt, the aircraft that made it possible. Many of them still exist, in museums, restored by enthusiasts, flying at air shows, a testament to American engineering. And somewhere in Virginia, Bill Overstreet is buried. A quiet grave, American flag, simple headstone, nothing fancy. But his story lives on, in French memories, in aviation history, in the legend of the pilot who did the impossible. This is what I want you to remember. Bill Overstreet didn't set out to be a hero. He didn't plan to become famous, he just did his job. But when the impossible was required, he didn't hesitate, and that's the lesson for all of us. He saw what needed to be done, and he did it. That's the real story. Not just the maneuver, not just the tower, but the character, the courage, the commitment. The P-47 Thunderbolt pilot who flew through the Eiffel Tower, Bill Overstreet, American hero, French legend, the man who did what everyone said was impossible. And every word of it is true.